So before you buy a property, you want to watch this video, or before you try to get into the real estate market, you want to watch this video because things are not looking that great. And there's this very powerful quote out there that says, the more you learn about money and finance and economics, the more confused you're going to be. So if you're not confused, you really don't know what's going on. And that quote is by Charlie Munger. And I believe it because even the people in charge of controlling the system, they can't control it. And you might say, Tommy, of course they control it. The Fed is in charge of monetary policy. The government can set things to make things better. We printed a bunch of money, right? The idea is, it's kind of like when you go to a circus and you see this guy with a stick and he's a lion tamer. Like, we all know what's going on here. He's in control. But is he really in control? That's what I'm saying. When the system is so big, it's not like anybody can really control it. What we really try to do is do certain things to make sure bad things don't happen, but really there's no real control. Now, pre-pandemic or post-pandemic or in the pandemic, we had a few issues, okay? We printed a bunch of money. It was very cheap to borrow money. And on top of that, well, we had a supply issue because when you have so much demand and so much money on the streets, supply tends to dwindle and prices tend to go up. So obviously that caused an inflation problem. And as we know, the Fed is in charge really of monetary policy, but they care about two overall factors, and that is inflation and deflation, and also, for example, that people have jobs. So whenever we have crazy inflation like we just had just now, well, we all know they have to step in to make sure everything is okay. Now, as always, guys, like this video. On top of that, also subscribe so I can keep you updated with everything else that's going to happen as the year is about to be over, because things are about to get very spicy. Now, pre-pandemic, guys, okay, I want to put this into perspective because this right here is very important when it comes to real estate. Pre-pandemic, the Fed had its rates at about 2.40%. And that's why, remember, for example, like pre-pandemic, like you could go to a bank and they would give you like 2% on the yield or something like that. And you'd be like, 2% is not that bad, not that great, whatever. But then once the pandemic happened and the Fed set rates like nearly to zero, automatically you couldn't get a single whole number when it came to your savings rates, okay? Because the way banks work, and by the way, banks are very important because most people, how are you gonna get a property? You gotta go to the bank to get credit, to then get a loan, to then buy the property. And the interest rates are very important. And whenever the bank sets interest rates, they set it based on two factors. First, they set it based on the Fed rates because that's basically risk-free money. So if they can get money for 0%, why would they pay you 1% or 2% on your savings? Okay, that's why it made no sense to have a bank pay you that much money. Now, second, they also set it on the spread. And the spread is the amount of extra money that they're going to charge you for the risk they're undertaking. That's the idea. So if the Fed rate is 3% and the risk level for you is 3%, you might get a mortgage rate of 6%, right? That's the idea, 3 plus 3. However, if Fed sets the rates to basically 0, well, 0 plus 3 is 3. And that's when you could basically go ahead and basically buy a property for 2% or 3%. And that was pretty good while it lasted. Now, that basically meant, guys, that you could walk into a bank and buy a $600,000 property for the same mortgage payment that today, because interest rates went up, you could basically buy a $300,000 property. That's how crazy interest rates basically are and how big it basically is, because it basically affects the entire system overall. So by doing this, obviously, the Fed is trying to do a few things here. First, they're trying to slow down demand. Because if you can't qualify, you can't buy, thus demand has to slow down. They're trying to lower inflation. That's the overall goal here, okay? That's all they want to do. So, and by the way, the cool thing is, guys, that when we had the whole pandemic and everything was going on and we had a lot of money on the streets, it was very cheap to borrow money, there were a lot of philanthropists out there that were real estate owners that all of a sudden they wanted to help with the whole supply issue, and they will list their houses at 30-40% above appraisal price just to see if anybody would bite. And a lot of people bit. And then those people that basically sold, they couldn't buy anything because prices were just up, all right? That's not that good. Now, how exactly is this actually going to affect real estate, okay? Because the main thing with real estate, guys, is that real estate is tricky because real estate are fixed assets and they're not that liquid. Although they are liquid, they're not that liquid. It's not like the stock market. They have a strong reaction right away. Fed raise rates, market drops by 10%. Very quickly, very fast, because right now I can sell my stock within seconds. But a property, Fed raise rates, like you can't just go ahead and sell that property right now because you have to wait. It is a process, right? So it tends to lag behind the stock market, okay? That's the main thing. But right now, guys, here's what's going to happen, okay? There are three factors here. And by the way, this prediction is based on what's going on right now, what's happened in the past, that's going to give us a kind of approximation of what's possibly going to happen in the future based on what the Fed is actually saying. First of all, if interest rates increase, and they continue to increase, if inflation does not go down as the Fed wants, eventually what that means is basically less people are going to be able to afford houses, homes, real estate. And if that happens, obviously, demand is going to slow down. If demand slows down, well, I'll save that for a second, like just give me a second there. But the second thing that's going to happen is obviously inflation also has to go down, which basically means that a lot of people might be better off just saving money as a stack it up to basically do whatever they want to do. So you might have, for example, a slowdown in demand, more savers, and thirdly and lastly, if people can't buy homes and people are basically saving money now, and then the same supply of real estate is out there for sale, eventually, it's kind of like when you sell something on Facebook and you set out, for example, hey, I'm going to try to sell this pen, right? I'm going to list it for $10. It's been 5 days. No one's bought it. You're like, okay, I'm going to list it for $3.50. 5 more days. No one's bought it. I'm going to list it for like $1.50. Oh, someone came, they bought it. But now you sold it for like 50% off, okay? That's the idea. So if the demand is not there, then in reality, what it sounds like is very simple, that real estate prices might go down. Now, here's my third and final point here. You might say, Tommy, real estate only goes one way, buddy, and that is up, okay? Now, when you average things out over 50, 100 years, the answer is, yeah, that's pretty obvious. But when you kind of look at different parts of history, that's obviously not true because real estate has gone up and has gone down in several situations. So, for example, in 2008, when we had the whole crisis, okay, the idea was simple, okay? Because banks were very fragrant, and they were basically able to make as many mortgages, not hold them, sell them off, and then those people like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac would basically just package them up and sell them back and forth to make money there. No one cared if a random person off the street came through and said, hey, I have this income, doesn't matter, we're not going to check it, here's the mortgage, boop, bop, boop, right? Now, if everybody's buying, prices tend to go up. But now, obviously, what happened, okay? Well, pre-pandemic, 2019, the median home price is around $313,000. Look it up, that's a fact. Now, today, the median house price, well, sale is about $440,000. I think that is, right? That is, I gotta double check, man, because sometimes I just be so, I'm like, yo, is that a real number? Like $440,000. That's a massive increase, right? In just 2 years. Now, what caused that? A lot of people, a lot of cheap money, right? Cheap money, a lot of money in the streets, and then basically inflation running flagrant, okay? So if all those factors are true and things go from here to what they actually need to be to up here, obviously this might cause a correction and it might just go down to where they actually need to be if the money stops flowing and people tighten up their pockets. Now, here's some advice, guys, that I got from a very old guy that I used to dislike, but now I like. His name is Dave Ramsey, okay? And he says, when it comes to real estate, money is made on the buy, okay? Not on the sell and not just on the ongoing, although you want to make money on the ongoing. Now, what that simply means is that when you buy a property, you want to make sure when you buy a property for investment purposes that you buy it below what it's worth, so that way you have built-in equity. So when this market potentially does turn into a buyer's market, you might see a lot more opportunities where people are going to be more abide to say, hey, you know what, Tommy? I'm actually willing to sell you this property at a 20% discount because no one's buying. That's the idea, and that's how this game basically works. Now, in reality, if you're planning to buy a property for yourself and it's not really an investment property, then the answer is fairly simple. If you can't afford a home right now because of interest rates, that just means one thing: you save, okay, to buy it the right way so you can actually afford it. Now, I never recommend you buy based on interest rates. I recommend you buy on your own pocket, following, for example, the 33% rule. This, when you buy a property, it's yours to own. You buy it on a 15-year mortgage. You try to pay it off faster, and it's only a third of your monthly income. And you only buy it once you're debt-free and everything else. But that's the idea, guys. What you might see following up in the next few weeks is potential, not weeks, maybe months from now, because this thing is not that fast at all. And projections say that they're going to be basically looking at inflation going down like in the next 2-3 years, okay? So it might be longer than you possibly think, and things are not looking pretty. But hold on, okay? Hold on and stay positive, all right, guys? But that's basically it for this video. Thanks for watching. As always, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified. If you take anything away from this video, it's pretty simple. Buy based on what you personally can afford, not based on what interest rates are saying or anything like that, okay? As always, guys, peace. Video thing. All right.